Welcome to the market recap presented by Tackle Trading. Get in the game.
Good afternoon, Tackle Traders, and hello, YouTube. This is Frank coming to you with the market recap for Wednesday, September 5th. Very interesting day in the market. A lot of selling in the NASDAQ, big pop-up in our utilities and our staples. So we can get right down to it. No S&P 500 companies are reporting earnings before the market opens again. Just a couple of really, big name companies had some pretty rough days. AP Biomed went down. Netflix, we all know about Netflix. Twitter, rough day. Certainly a lot of selling in certain areas in the market, but it was not all bearish. That's for sure. Taking a look at our indexes first. On the S&P, we did sell off quite a bit. We once again kind of hit that intraday low and rallied up, forming a little bit of a doji type hammer type of candle. Buyers still remain pretty committed. As we see these tails that form pretty much every day during this pullback, we kind of see we hit the low of the day and then we kind of rally back up. So a little bit of conviction, but we're still in that pullback phase within the S&P 500. Nothing really changed technically. I'd love to see it. I wouldn't mind one more day of selling personally, but we'll see if that's what we get. NASDAQ actually had it the worst today from an index point of view, pulling all the way back to that breakout point. I do think it's very important that that breakout point does hold from a technical point of view. I will expect it to until it doesn't. Those will be my expectations. It's also pretty much right above that 20-day moving average, that red average that you see here on this chart. So as long as that holds, I'm going to look at this as a pullback opportunity. Obviously, there was some tech stocks that really had a pretty rough day today. So there probably will be some pullback opportunities in the tech sector to close the week out if we're interested in that sector. So if that's something that you've been looking for, now it's probably a good time to get through that watch list, see if anything's lining up for you. Taking a look at the Dow, it fared a little bit better today, kind of coming off of that hammer yesterday. No real big movement or anything like that. But after looking at the NASDAQ, anything green, it looks pretty positive. Nothing from a technical point of view, of course, has changed. We continue to hold that breakout point. Have seen some upward movement off of that low, though. That is a positive thing for sure. Had a really long tail develop on the Russell today as we kind of sold back towards, didn't quite make it to, but towards that breakout point. Again, it can always be very helpful just to go in and look at some shorter time frames to get a little bit more understanding of the day that was, how the day actually played out. We actually closed, spent most of the day pretty bullish on the Russell, right? We just didn't start that way. So again, much like our S&P and our other indexes, we continue to hold the breakout point. So until we break some support, fail at some resistance, I'm going to consider that our overall trend is still intact from a broad point of view and act accordingly. So taking a look at our sectors, XLB continues to be very, very volatile, very back and forthy. I went to a weekly chart because I've not had a great read on this for a bit now. For a while, it was in that nice triangle, but it's really kind of started to behave strange, to me at least. I went and looked at the weekly chart, and I saw this, and I said, of course, that's why I have no read on it. This is a jumbled mess. I have no opinion whatsoever, because how can you on a chart, at least from a technical point of view, maybe from a fundamental point of view, I can have an opinion, but technically, that is a sideways, tiny, jumbled mess, at least in my eyes. So until we start to show something better, I'm going to continue to probably say I don't like you materials, but they do continue to show pretty good volatility on a regular basis. So if you do like volatile, fast-moving stocks, or doing some intraday on something like that, I could see why some people would like that. That's just not who I am. Energy had a really low point, but really finished strong, very strong bullish hammer candlestick here today on the energy sector. Let's see if we can get some upward movement. It too has kind of been in one of those struggling type of areas, at least for me. I've not really loved it, but that certainly is a strong hammer candlestick that we saw. See if we can carry that momentum into tomorrow. Our financials had a very good run, pretty much almost all the way to resistance, ended up closing down closer to the lower end, still up on the day, but did kind of falter. Would love to have seen that candle actually stay, mostly green instead of have this long wick or shadow at the top, but such is life. Continue to monitor that. We hold our breakout point, but now we do know that resistance is something that we probably should keep an eye on for the time being, at least. Industrials, we saw the Dow Jones. It had a pretty good day, certainly the best day of our indexes, only positive day of our indexes. No surprise that we're seeing the industrial sector really coming in strong today after that, kind of forming that bottom these last couple of days. Very strong upward movement over in the industrial sector. So things are still looking pretty solid over there. Of course, when we saw NASDAQ with the big pullback today, no surprise, we see technology with a big pullback today as well, kind of lining up with its 20-day moving average, with its previous resistance level. Let's monitor that, make sure those areas can hold. But if, again, and it's okay if you don't want to do this, but if you have been waiting for tech to pull back, you're getting that opportunity. So if that's something you've been watching for, make sure you're preparing for it so you can take advantage of it. We've been watching our staples for a pullback for a bit now. Finally, and when it happened, boy, it happened when it did that happen today. Really some very strong upward movement over in the staple sector today. I don't know what you say about that candlestick other than that is very, very beautiful if you're a bull. Lined up with the 200-day moving average, we've seen several days of doji where it really seemed like it was done, just never got the ball rolling to get going. Well, it did today. So very strong day over in the staple sector. Utilities, another very strong performing sector here today. They've been one of those pullbacks where it pulled back to the breakout point, made a lot of sense from a technical point of view, had opportunities to move into it, and it just never really did anything. But a good reminder that just because it doesn't do something today doesn't mean it's not a good trading opportunity, right? Nothing ever changed from a pattern point of view, even though there was a lot of back and forth and some pretty volatile days. When we took out that 54 today, we really took off. We kind of had that 54 approximately beat resistance for the last 3 trading days, took that out and pretty much ran almost to the previous swing high. So now we're going to have that challenge to contend with a very strong day over in the utilities. Healthcare starting, it's not going to do much of a pullback, at least it doesn't seem like it is with the strength of this sector as of late. Started to see some buyers step back into the sector here today. Let's see if we can get some carryover tomorrow for a little bit of confirmation. But anytime, I see a trend that looks like this, I just assume that buyers are looking for any excuse to buy into it. Oh, it sold off today, let's buy it. Oh, it's an intraday support, let's buy it. Those are always my expectations on these really strong trends, because that's how those really strong trends develop, right? If people aren't willing to just jump in every chance that they get, then they don't end up being so strong. So I'll continue to look at that from a bullish point of view, no doubt about that. And then, of course, our real estate, we missed our discretionary there. It kind of gave out today. Nothing technically has changed or anything like that, but a lot of profit taking over in the discretionary sector here today. That's why I wanted to skip over it. So real estate continues to be very sideways. We talked about it yesterday. I think we'll probably talk about it for a few more days at least. We're kind of stuck in a range, where we're in an upward trend. We've got some overhead resistance. We haven't broke support. Really, we're kind of in a sideways situation until we can break out, at least as far as I'm concerned. So we'll continue to monitor it within this trading range, is at least my thought process and how I'm handling that real estate sector right now. The dollar index is pretty much same as it was yesterday. We're down today, we were up yesterday, but really our chart looked pretty much the exact same. Took a little run and then, tried to get to the top end of that range and then sold back into it. I'm going to stay neutral on this thing until we can get a little more clarity. That will be my read on it, as it has been for a bit since we kind of fell back into this old trading range. Monitor those tops. Don't be surprised if we continue to struggle there. We know how much we struggled there before, right? And then we had that failed. I know that failed, at least for the time being, breakout. And that's probably weighing on some people's minds too. But really haven't changed anything from a technical point of view on the dollar index here today. Gold drifted a little bit up, but again, nothing technically has changed. I mean, we're really still looking at this major level of old support, new resistance, as what's holding us down currently from a technical point of view in this overall very, very bearish trend. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I don't know how you could make a strong case to be a bull until we break above that. I'm not saying I would be a bull if we did break above that, but at least with the way the chart looks today, to me, that would be your first opportunity to get in if you were a bull. Now, I know not everybody's me, and so those would be my rules that would say that. So, and I understand that not everybody does it the exact same way that I do, but that is obviously a very important price, continues to be so. Our overall situation, very, very unchanged from where we were here yesterday. Silver, of course, really had that rough day yesterday, closed below that old support level. Kind of a little bit of a bounce back day, if you want to call it that. Continue to monitor that, see if this old floor acts as a new level of resistance. We see that a lot from a technical point of view, so let's continue to monitor that, but still very bearish situation over there for sure. Our old friends in natural gas did kind of break down. I saw some pretty good downward movement. We continue to be pretty weak. And again, I'm going to come to a weekly chart here really quick to kind of illustrate this, where we've kind of made these lower highs, but we haven't made the lower lows yet. So it's kind of in one of those fighting zones. You know, I do expect it to work towards support, having failed to hold, at least as of right now, that old breakout point here today, closing down below it. I will expect it to work a little bit closer down into these ranges, at least right now. You know, I can change that. The great thing about being a trader is I can change my mind when the chart tells me to. Right now, I don't like it at all from a bullish point of view. And while I recognize there are bearish signals, I'm kind of a wimp. I don't know that I would take it. But hey, to each their own, and good luck with whatever you do decide to do, if anything, with natural gas. Crude, after yesterday's failed breakout attempt, no terribly huge surprise. We've started to sell off here today. We saw yesterday that failed breakout, and if you think about just the psychology of that, you know, the real aggressive traders, oh, it's breaking out, we buy it, and then it ends up baking them out. They're probably maybe not all that excited about trying it again tomorrow, right? And it looks like that's what happened here today. Nobody was willing to give it another shot, and of course we continued to sell off from yesterday's failed breakout. So I still think that 70-ish area that we've been fighting with is a major place for this for energy or for oil right now that I'll continue to monitor. We're seeing some downward movement off of that, so that will be really the important price that I will be looking for. Let's see what kind of happens within this range. It hasn't happened yet, but we've talked a lot about kind of projecting what might happen or how we might approach it or things like that. Well, it hasn't happened yet. This could potentially end up turning in to a reverse head and shoulders. Our left shoulder's over here, head's right here. And again, I'm projecting, but our right shoulder develops over here. So that will be something we can watch together here in the coming days, see if something like that does happen. Right now, I think we really have to respect that $70 level of resistance from a technical point of view. At least that's how I look at that. So, ladies and gentlemen, that has been our market recap for today. As always, it is certainly my pleasure, and I do appreciate everybody's time. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the Tackle Trading YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so you can be alerted to any new videos that we have over here on our YouTube channel. We're always adding more and love to share them with you. Make sure to follow us over at Tackle Trading on Twitter. Stay up to date with with things that we're watching, things that we got going on over at Tackle Trading. If you did enjoy the market recap, it is always helpful and appreciated if you give it a thumbs up to let us know we're on the right track. So thank you in advance for that. With that, ladies and gentlemen, happy trading, and I will see you in the next one.